We're going to call the January 8th, 2024 regular Jersey Shore Area School District Board meeting to order. Can I have a roll call vote, or a roll call, please, on attendance, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mr. Berngard. Mrs. Calhoun.
Here.
Miss Edwards. Here. Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler.
Here.
All 9 members present.
Okay, we will now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going to recognize Mrs. Johnston to bring forward students.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce 2 fifth-grade students from Jersey Shore Elementary, Elizabeth Fry and Gavin Fisher.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, turn around so Mrs. Johnson can get your picture.
Moving on to communications.
I don't have anything under communications for this evening.
Under the President's report, we held an executive session this evening prior to this meeting for legal and personnel. And the following will be the committee appointments for this year. For the PSBA Legislative, there will be Mary and Sherry. For the Professional Learning Committee, there will be myself. For the Comprehensive Planning and Steering Committee, there will be Mary, Tim, and Kayla. For the CTE General Advisory Committee, there will be Mike and Bill. For the IU-17, there will be Jesse. For the Buildings and Grounds Committee, there will be Harry, who will chair that committee, and Mike and Bill. And for the Capital Campaign Committee, it will be Kayla and Tim. Moving on to the Intermediate Unit report, Jesse.
Thank you, Madam President. The next meeting will be January 17th. If anyone from the public would like to attend, that is all.
All right, thank you. The Student Representative report, Kate.
Hello. As a student school board representative, I want to give you an update about the great things my classmates are doing. Many students give back to our community. The Youth Development Task Force participated in the Sticker Shock event, stickers reminding adults it's illegal to furnish alcohol to minors. Student athletes and FBLA members continue to volunteer at the Love Center, unloading trucks and packing boxes. The Red Cross Club is having a blood drive coming up on January 30th. FBLA ran a fundraiser for Caleb Latimer over the holiday break. The music department is preparing for the musical, which runs from March 15th through the 17th. 2024 rehearsals have started. Our winter sports teams are working hard. Peyton Dinger scored her 1,000th point. Boys basketball performed well in Hughesville tournament. The swim team has several swimmers who have made automatic qualifying times already for the district swim meet. Bocce won their first match and they have a home match tomorrow. Wrestling performed well in tournaments over winter break. Several athletes placed. In FBLA, students performed well at the regional competition held at Penn College. 27 students qualified for the state competition at Hershey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent's report.
I'm going to start by recognizing Dr. Ostenbach, who's been working on a program with our middle school counselor, Mr. Dominic Bragalone, who's also here tonight to talk about Wake Up and Learn.
And I'm going to introduce Mr. Bragalone, who is going to represent our staff in presenting Wake Up and Learn with a representative from Geisinger.
And to the board, a copy of the presentation is sitting at your seats as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominic Bragalone, and I'm the school counselor here at the middle school. And I just want to start off by saying thank you for your time tonight and allowing me to talk on behalf of this program, as well as Christina Blessing, who is also part of Wake Up and Learn. For tonight's board meeting, I wanted to introduce this program of Wake Up and Learn as it focuses on a reoccurring topic that I have encountered throughout my career here at Jersey Shore for the short time that I've been here for 6 months, as well as my internship last year that I spent counseling students. So as I mentioned, tonight we have Christina Blessing from Wake Up and Learn, who's going to give you all an overview of what the program entails. So I'll let her do a lot of the explaining of the program. But the reason I wanted to bring this to Jersey Shore is due to the constant conversations we have regarding sleep for our students and the impact it has on their academics as well as their physical and mental health. Essentially, Wake Up and Learn is a free program that emphasizes the importance of healthy sleep in order to be successful. From the foods that we put in our body to the time we go to bed, our sleep is affected by many things that most students are unaware of. And considering my role as a counselor, I work with teachers, parents, and students in all different settings. And one of the main questions that is asked when we're working with a student who is struggling is, how is your sleep? And many times, students who are struggling with attendance, mental health, or even academics will tell us that they don't go to bed until midnight and sometimes even 2, 3 in the morning. So through these conversations, it was clear to me that sleep is something that the students struggle with, and by educating them on how to get better sleep, it will have an impact. On their overall mental health, and that's something that I value and want to bring to the students. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it on over to Christina Blessing from Geisinger.
Hi, everyone. Hello. As Dominic said, my name is Christina Blessing. I am a project manager at Geisinger in Danville, so I'm at the main hospital there. And I have been overseeing operations and outreach for the Wake Up and Learn program since it was incepted back in 2019. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight, and thank you, Dominic, for connecting with us. As Dominic said, sleep is really pervasive in every aspect of our lives, particularly with those with younger children and adolescents as they're growing and developing. We did have a video that was actually had Dr. Morse. She is the pediatric neurologist and sleep specialist who founded this program. Unfortunately, we can't see that tonight, but if it's okay, I can share that link with everyone here.
We can do that.
Perfect. Dr. Morse is extremely passionate about the way that sleep is integral to every aspect of our lives. And she developed Wake Up and Learn to help students in particular, but also the broader school community, families realize that sleep is a tool that you can use to reach your goals. So whether that's in academics, in athletics, whether you want to have healthy relationships, all of these things are impacted by the quality and the health of our sleep. What Wake Up and Learn is, it is a free program offered through Geisinger in partnership with schools that offers education as well as tools and resources to help kids identify when sleep may need some tweaking. As Dominic said, it's very common for students to cut out sleep because they have a heavy academic load. They have extracurriculars, their academics, maybe they're babysitting or working after school. And the goal of our program is to help them see, and families in the broader school community see, that when you cut out sleep, you're really selling yourself short. So our goal is to help people make the connection between sleep health and what is most important to them. We have been working with a school district that we piloted with since 2020. We're really excited to be in our 4th year with that school district. And the presentation has some of the comments that we have received from students that have been a part of this. What we like about these comments in particular is that these students are not reporting perfect sleep. We're not always going to go and get the 8 to 10 hours that we need. We're not going to sleep through the night every night. But by helping students recognize that their sleep quality impacts the next day, they're starting to make different decisions about whether they're going to stay up a little later, or strategies for studying that maybe they skip that all-nighter. So we're just really excited about these examples of the impact that Wake Up and Learn have when you get education in front of students and help them make decisions that are for the betterment of, again, what is most important to them. There's really 2 pillars to our program. The first is an educational piece. What you see on the screen here are some of the educational resources that we provide free to all of our school partners. So we have things like posters, bulletin boards. We have a sleep resource book that is for faculty to help direct them if they're concerned about having sleep problems. All of these resources are meant to be used however the school finds most useful. We have some curriculum and videos that teachers can choose to use, but really they're meant to be accessed by families and by students who may be wondering how they can get better sleep. The other aspect of our program, though, is providing tools so that both students and faculty can take action as they're learning about sleep. So I brought a few of our resources as an example tonight, but tools like a sleep diary, instructions for tracking your sleep to figure out where you might be able to make some tweaks, or the type of activities that could be impacting your sleep. Similarly, sleep habits, things that you can do to create a good wind-down routine in the evening to relax and prepare your body for sleep. We also pair with schools to do periodic voluntary sleep assessments. So they're quick surveys that you complete online. They give immediate feedback. And again, the point is to return information to students and families so that they can decide how they can incorporate that information into their lives. I know I do just want to clarify, it is a Geisinger program. The intent of this program is never to get people into the Geisinger system or to tell them they have to go see their doctor to talk about sleep. Our intent is to return information, again, to students and families so that they can decide how it's helpful and provide a reliable place where people can go and get information about bettering their sleep. So I know we have limited time, very high level. Any questions that I can address while I'm here?
I have a question. So, other than discussing their sleep habits and their activities, are you seeing results in the students that, I'm assuming these are the kids that come in late because they're tired, or these are the kids that are falling asleep during class because they were up gaming and it was the best score ever, that kind of thing. What kind of results are you seeing from what you're providing?
So specifically in our pilot school, as I mentioned, we've been there 4 years. We do look at high-level statistics. So we're not looking at, was this the student falling asleep in class necessarily? But that's certainly part of what we see. The first year that we did our screening, we had 64% of students that were scoring at a level that indicates there's some sort of sleep problem going on there. And that's pretty in line with what we're seeing in kind of general literature right now about the prevalence of sleep problems, specifically in adolescents. But what we've seen over the years is a steady decline in those numbers. And what I can do is share you part of this presentation. There's a longer one. I can share with you the percentages. But we're seeing now down to like the 40s, high 30s in our most recent screening.
Okay.
So we're definitely seeing, again, and part of it is just that awareness. Some people are able to make tweaks to their habits, and that is all they need But there's also people in general that if you have a sleep disorder, sometimes recognizing that is the step they need to talk to their doctor and get that additional help.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Dominic. So what happens next here at Jersey Shore? Do we need to say yes to this to start? Have you done any of this in middle school yet, or you just?
So I've been waiting. I did receive some of the resources that you see on the TV, from the posters to some of the little handouts, but I haven't put them up in the school just yet. I haven't turned them in because I wanted to bring this to the board to get approval for it, and then if we do get approval, I'd like to kickstart it. In March is Sleep Week, so that's when I really plan on popping into classrooms, teaching about sleep lessons, having kids do the optional surveys, and then there's also a contest of some sort where students will create a poster board of a healthy sleep habit, which will give them an opportunity to win like a prize. So really my goal here is just to create that awareness, and I've seen from the other school that I was at last year that has Wake Up and Learn that a lot of the students that were coming in, they were the ones initiating the conversation about their sleep, where that's kind of rare to see. So where I'm at right now at Jersey Shore, and really any school that doesn't have the awareness of healthy sleep patterns, is the counselor or the teacher or the principal, whoever's working with the student, is bringing that conversation up. But to see the students recognize, hey, my sleep could be contributing to my struggles, and for them to be the first ones to initiate that conversation, just proves to me that they're thinking about it, and just that initial thought can lead to significant results if they're making changes in their lives. So my goal is just to bring awareness and really kickstart it end of February and into March once Sleep Week happens.
And procedurally, so you are aware as a board, that can happen. The only part that would require board approval is if we elected into the survey of students. Your policy does require board approval of student surveys like this. So we can proceed with using the resources now that you're aware of what we're doing. I needed you to be aware, but in order to do the surveys, which are not a requirement of the program, you would have to approve us to give the surveys. So if we determine internally we want to give the surveys to track that data, then we'll come back and ask for board approval of the survey.
Is it possible is it easy, can you go out online and look at that sleep resource book as board members? Can we have access to that and the survey?
We have a PDF version, I can send that to you, and we have a demo site, so you can go through the surveys as if you're a
Okay.
student.
Thank you.
Dominic, I can send both of those to you.
Did you get that, Dr. Omar?
Yep, got it.
And just to speak on the surveys real quick, I know we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but as Christina mentioned, they are optional. And what I have seen, and I'm sure Christina has seen, is that data that we receive based off of where students' sleep is can be beneficial in various different meetings that we have when we're talking about how we can support students. So we could use that in MTSS meetings, we could use that in SAP meetings, we could talk about a child's sleep in a parent-teacher conference, and just having that extra component of evidence, if you will, that you can use to, okay, this may be a contributing factor to what this child is struggling with, that it's just like icing on the cake. You know, it's just an extra resource that we can use.
Thank you.
Dr. Osenbach, how do you feel about that? I know you're like the MTSS guru here and the data coordinator kind of lady. How do you feel about what he said, being able to incorporate those into parent meetings or IEP meetings or anything of the sort?
So I'm completely in favor of this. I feel like it's another piece of data that can help us uncover maybe some issues that are happening that maybe we wouldn't have known about before, and also provide some resources and some ideas to improve that data if it needs improving. So I'm definitely in favor of it, as are the principals.
Can we have a copy of the survey? Let's see what kind of questions are being asked.
Absolutely, I'll share that with Dominic and have it
Okay.
distributed.
Thank you.
Additional questions? I will make sure you get the survey to look at before we ask for approval.
And she said she has PDF of the resource book.
Thank you both.
All right, thank you all.
Also at board member seats is a copy of the annual staffing enrollment report. It is also attached to the agenda, especially for the new board members. Annually, prior to starting budget conversations, which are coming up very quickly, this gives you a snapshot of both enrollment across the district. On page 1, you'll see enrollment and enrollment changes, as well as staff counts that are broken down as you go back through the report by level, and then compared to each other. After you see each level, you then see staff counts compared to level by level. So elementary, middle, and high school are all compared at the back. So as we start to, and I know I've heard this from some of you, as we start to have conversations about staffing and budget, and you question, well, how many of those are there? This is the report you're going to want to come back to as we have those budget conversations and staffing conversations. This you will get annually, but for those new people, this is the first time you're seeing it. So this gives you a comprehensive count across the district of how many students, where are they all at, how many staff you employ, where they all are. That's what this is for. Questions about that? And then finally attached to the agenda is just for your review, it is not being voted on tonight, a new PSBA policy 254 called Educational Opportunity for Military Children. This will establish us in response to a state law that pretty much, for lack of a better, you already had a policy on how we treat students who are homeless or students who are in foster care and what their enrollment process looks like. This is very similar and treated very similar for students in military families. They have a much faster timeline for how you have to enroll them and what enrollment processing looks like and what documents we have to have in order to enroll them by law. That law was pretty recent. And now you have a policy that will memorialize that process as soon as this policy goes through your policy process. So tonight it's on the agenda, attached just for your review. Provide feedback if you see anything out of the ordinary. It is almost identical to what PSBA gave us as a sample policy. It will be on the agenda next meeting for a first read, and then you'll do a second read before it becomes policy. But that is a brand new policy, and it is in response to a change in the law. Questions about any of that? That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Almer. We will now have courtesy of the floor for those items that are on the agenda for this evening, and we have one person signed up, Mr. Craig Allen.
I just have two things. One is just a suggestion. I noticed tonight that there's a little over $26,000 in budget transfers, and you're telling the public where the money's going to, but you're not telling them where it's coming from. So just something to think about going forward. Not looking for any answers tonight, just maybe put in the minutes where it came from. The other thing, what I mainly wanted to support tonight is the girls wrestling program. You know that Bill presented it a couple weeks ago, or almost a month ago now, I guess. And just wanted to support their program as much as I can. Right now, the last I saw was 190 girls wrestling programs in the state of Pennsylvania alone. So that's not quite halfway among all the 500 school districts. The other thing you have to consider is we've got a top 10 program right up the road here in Lock Haven. They're top 10 nationally in only their second year of existence. The girls wrestle freestyle is not the same wrestling that you have at the high school, which is folk style, but they all wrestle freestyle. Just little changes, but they're very much, you wouldn't notice if you didn't understand the rules what the difference was. But if you think about having a program that's that accessible and that close to Jersey Shore, and then combine that with the tuition offsets that are available through Lock Haven to, I think it's all Lake Cummings students, right? Is that correct? I remember right?
All of the state systems.
Yeah, all the state systems, and I think it caps out at about $7,500 a year. So if they had the grades to support it, they could continue wrestling within 10 miles of home and get $7,500, up to $7,500 off the tuition. So it's got an academic component to it here, especially with Lock Haven being so close. That's all. Just hope you'll vote to approve it tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Moving on to personnel. We have recommended action to approve items A through M. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question on J. An aide on the bus, does that, read that correctly? Is that for a special student, or is that for the whole bus, or how does that work, or is it a paid position, or?
It is a paid position. There are aides on buses already. I believe that is, I'll let you speak to that, but I believe it's a replacement. But because those would be transportation company employees, but we still have to approve them.
They are aides to what, help handicapped students, or just?
could be.
Okay, just
There's a variety of reasons that an
Okay.
aide would be on a bus.
control and everything else. Okay.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, you covered it.
Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say aye. All right, motion passes. There is nothing under curriculum and instruction. Under building and grounds, recommended action to approve item A. May I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments?
Can you clarify where the funding is coming from?
Go ahead.
It says it on the next page.
Yeah, there is a safety budget, it's called the Safe Schools budget, as part of our regular school budget, and it's coming out of that.
And this will be in all 5 schools?
Yes.
Okay.
This money's already been budgeted, but it's just gonna be transferred to a different account that's more usable for what the person wants. The head of technology person?
No, you're on the wrong one.
You're ahead of them.
No, I'm back behind. I go ahead.
No, this money is not transferred, it's already there.
Oh, Windows.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. Is this the grant money that we received for safety? Or is this money
This
that we
is
just
not.
saved away?
This is not, this was budgeted money. This is also a recommendation in your risk and vulnerability assessment.
Okay.
This is one of the items that I believe last year when I presented that
Windows.
yes, the window tinting.
I was just hoping that we we got safety grant money.
I hear it's coming.
I didn't ask if we got it yet, because I knew we didn't. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to finance, recommended action to approve items A through D. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments?
I think this is where Harry's question comes in. Are these
I was
monies just,
poking him.
this is money that we didn't spend on something else from that category that we're moving to somewhere else?
You got it, Mr.
Staying within the department, but just moving it to a different area of that department, I guess, or?
Correct.
I have a question for Ben. Sorry, Ben. Could you explain, D to the new board members? Like where,
D is federal dollars are passed down through from the IU to us. We are in federal language, a subrecipient of the federal dollars from the IU. The IU is the recipient of the federal dollars. This IDA it's a much bigger pot. This is a very, very tiny chunk of it. If you look how much money we were allocated, I think it was about $6,000 on that spreadsheet. So there's a bigger chunk of IDA money that you will approve in June for next year.
and why does it come through the IU?
I honestly don't know. It's always been passed through down through the IU.
Okay. I meant like, is there anything attached to it? Like funding from the IU?
What are the
specifically?
funds used for?
Well, the funding is, the funding is earmarked for special ed. Has to be spent on special ed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got a question about C. I thought we had all the Promethean boards replaced. Is this for something new, or?
There were a couple more that Mr. Crape wanted to add to what we already purchased in different locations. For example, I know we did all the classrooms, but there were some, for example, conference rooms that maybe had a projector that he would prefer they match what we have in place.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to miscellaneous. Recommended action to approve items A through I with a roll call vote on letter A. May I have a motion?
Motion.
What is my name change from yours?
And a second?
Second.
Oh, I got it.
I told you I took that off.
That's what I thought.
Are there any questions or comments?
I had a question about letter F. Is this proposed to be outside?
No, it's in the building.
It's in the building. Okay.
I have a question on letter I, the speech contract. The I itself says minimum of 24 hours virtual speech therapy, but I believe the quote is for 10 hours. Is that a starting, but we're going to give them more later? And why don't they come to the school? Why is it virtual?
It's virtual based on the service provider. It is also for summer to maintain the therapy over the summer.
Thank you.
So are we going to get,
Yes, before we get, before there's any discussion here on letter A, is there any other questions or comments, B through I? I actually have one for you, Dr. Almer, on letter I myself. I was looking through that agreement, and is this the one where it has said that both parties are responsible for showing up? Payment goes to, like if the child misses or the student misses the virtual, like nothing has been set up as of yet schedule-wise, but I think it had said, correct, okay. But I think it had said that if the student misses the actual session, payment is still rendered.
If the therapist is scheduled to be there. Like if
Got
the
it.
schedule is created
Okay.
and the student isn't able to make it, we still are obligated once we create the schedule. That's the way
That's the way it works.
that's the way their contract is worded.
Okay, thank you.
In theory, because they can't go out and schedule someone else.
That makes sense, okay. Okay. Who would like to start the discussion on letter A? And actually, Mr. Minster, would you be willing to come to the podium, please? Because I think there's going to be a few questions for you. Thank you.
I'll start. I don't know, I have a lot of questions on it, but I'm going to go back to the boys program. You know, I'm looking at beginning of the year here, we had 4, 5, 6 forfeits. I think the last time I saw, we were down to maybe 3 forfeits. And I think it goes back to maybe injuries. Maybe Croc, you could help me. Injuries are coming from where, in the practice room?
Some of the concussions came in there, yes. One of the injuries came there in tournament. Another one, I'm trying to think what classes exactly it had. I'm just going through what classes it had real quick. A lot of the injuries have come from either actual competition or it's come from a practice related incident.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is because I've been in that practice room. To me, it's got to be the worst practice room in the whole area. There isn't any school district around that has a small practice room like that. And then we're going to put maybe 5, 6 girls in there.
We have been
With-
putting those girls in there the entire
Pardon me?
year. They've been in there the entire year.
I know, but it's just, to me, it's just not we need a dedicated wrestling practice room for these kids.
I 100% agree with you, and ultimately, when I was here before, as you know, that was not a practice room, that was a storage closet.
Right.
And we used the side gym. When I came in and saw, Croc can attest to this, where we were put for wrestling, I said, why are we in this room? Why aren't we using the side gym? At that time, from previous years, they didn't have the numbers that it really was a big issue in there. Certainly, I talked with Croc today. Moving forward next year for certain, the schedule is going to be a situation where they have the side room use if they need it and the practice room if they need it. So we have 2 dedicated spaces for them.
Separated rooms?
It's the side gym and then the wrestling room. There would be 2 separate,
What do you call the side gym?
the side gym, the little auxiliary gym, where we wrestled before when Caden was on the team.
Back where, you're not talking about the fitness center?
No, the one right beside it, where the big bleachers are.
Okay.
We can close those doors to make off from the basketball.
I know we had talked one time, we had Larson Design come in and give us an estimate on building above the fitness center there, doing the architecture design for that there, but that fell through because that's a little expensive. But, you know, and then, like I said, you're looking at a lot of forfeits for the boys team there, which I don't like. I like to see a full team. I'm sure you would too. But then we we're gonna bring in 5, 6 girls, and then we're gonna have 6, 7 forfeits there. I'm for the program. I wanna see it go. I'm not so sure I wanna see them in the same area. Is there any way to split them up different time? Probably not different time periods, would it be, for practice areas?
This is set up by the PIAA, so this is the season that they're in, and no team in the area has 12 or 13 weights filled. So everybody, there's some of the schools that'll have 1 or 2.
1 forfeit, Central.
We've wrestled a couple times where we counted as a JV boys match and they counted as a JV girls match. Is that how that works?
We're boys, they were girls.
Yes, correct. But our girls have wrestled their girls, the teams that had girls before that, and we've had, what, 2 or 3 bouts, maybe?
Yeah.
Some of you even haven't had a match yet, right? So, I mean, that's going to be, until that program builds up around the area, I think that's going to be the case. And I don't know, hopefully someday we'll have 13 weight classes filled. I'm not sure that will ever happen, but I think it would be awesome, but, you know. we
Right,
can't do
I
that
just
without
read about,
the
I think Montgomery just initiating a girls wrestling team too, and they're having the same problem. They have maybe 6 or 7 girls that are trying to, it's getting a start and going to the end of the year, getting into tournaments, and like Mr. Allen said, maybe getting a scholarship or something down the road there. But I know you have a girl on the boys team there. If we initiate this, approve it, is it strictly going to be girls on the girls team and boys on the boys team?
I want to speak for all the girls, but from my understanding, they don't want to wrestle boys. So our girls will go to the girls team. Am I right on that, ladies? So,
But
our
the
girls will go to the girls team and just be on the girls team. When I said that at the last meeting, that's what the PIAA has offered everybody. So if you don't have a team, like we don't currently have a team, they can be a part of the boys team, wrestle girls as preliminary bouts, stuff like that, the way we've been doing it, and then have an opportunity to wrestle in districts. So that was kind of, and so they technically would have the opportunity this year through other schools to wrestle on a boys team or wrestle on a girls team. Our school district can ultimately say too, and personally, this is the way I feel, if we have a boys team and we have a girls team in the same sport, you know, the boys should participate on the boys team, the girls participate on the girls team. That's what we do in basketball, that's what we do in soccer. I'm trying to think if that's the only 2. Right now, that's the only 2 coming to my head. Oh, tennis, girls tennis, boys tennis, so they participate on the like sport. So once this would be approved, I don't think it wouldn't be an issue at all with the girls that are on the team this year to be strictly on the girls team. And there wouldn't obviously be any boys on that team.
If they're on the girls team, you have an exceptional girl that could fill into the boys team? Is that possible?
That's up to the, no, they can't go back and forth.
Yeah.
But
Can't go back and forth, but they could commit to the boys team to fill a weight class.
they could this year, but once we offer the team, then they can't. They have to be on the girls team.
Is there a difference between a team and a club?
Yeah.
Through the PIAA, no. Through the funding, yes.
No, I mean, no, but I mean,
Yeah. No, no.
If
There's
you-
not
if
a
you-
difference between a club team and a school funded team in terms of that.
And if I remember, you said that that this year there would be districts and regional, and that for the girls
Yeah,
under
districts is the
under
same
PIAA.
Yeah, the districts is the same time as our boys. The regionals, I think, is a week earlier, no, a week later than the boys. And states is the same. And regionals and districts is at Williamsport for both teams. Regionals is at Milton for the girls, and then states obviously at Hershey.
who will the coaches be? The
It'd
boys?
be our current coaches. We have Raven Durr, who's one of our female volunteers. We are looking to, I've talked with Dr. Almer about doing some things with her to give her some, a part of a stipend. So that will be presenting to the board at the next meeting. But yes, so we have Croc, we have Colin, we have Aaron and Raven, and then any of our volunteer coaches that come up, Logan, all those guys.
I just can't place for that extra room as you're talking about. Is it back where where the wrestling mat room is? Is it straight on back beyond the fitness center?
It's straight in front of it. Where the big set of bleachers pull out, where we have the dividing door, that's the room. That's where we wrestled as soon as we built the fitness center, that's where we wrestled the rest of the time I was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
in
right.
that room.
What's the JSD all-purpose room?
We potentially could, we could potentially use that, but then that would,
The bleachers, but this is their space here.
elementary program.
Remember, the bleachers are moving
Where's
all
the
the way
fitness center at?
behind us.
Are there more
Back here.
questions?
I have a question. The
Oh, all right.
space available on the side of the gym room that you were talking about, is it currently being used?
So where the
Periodic.
bleachers
So
are,
like our competition cheerleading squad uses it, they had practice today.
and that's what they use
Bocce
for,
uses it when we have
right there
practice.
where the bleachers slide back.
With
and that's-
Bocce having matches that start so early,
That
then that kind of
that would
eliminates
interfere
being
with the
able to use
basketball
that.
program, wouldn't it?
But, those things are
Or you can
all
pull a wall
doable
across
with
there.
the schedule. I can make things work with moving around things in the schedule. I can fix it so that they have more time in the side gym if they wanted to use that side gym. And ultimately too, like, and I talked with Croc about this today, many of our practices, it's not written in stone that we have to practice at 3:30. You know, if you move the practice to 5:30, we could practice at 5:30 to 7:30 sometimes, or change practices around a little bit. Bocce only practices for an hour. If you start, they go from 3:30 to 4:30. You can still go from 4:30 to 6 practice, and you'd have that whole side gym. So, and then once districts is over for cheerleading, it'll be a little bit more open in there.
Then you can
And
use
they go this Saturday.
Okay. And the other is, do you have any, I don't think so, since everybody's sitting together and you can read their body language, like, they're okay practicing together,
They haven't,
I would assume.
I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything.
Practice in the same room, but they generally wrestle just each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, not much at all, they
I played soccer and it was co-ed, so we played against the boys, and no offense, it made us stronger. So I don't have an issue. It could be a strong aspect.
Right.
So that was, my only thing was, if there's available space somewhere else that you guys could have.
And we can explore other buildings too. I think it makes it a little difficult at this point in.
Because there's so much activity.
Yeah.
All right,
But I ultimately, like I said, next year the schedule will be a little bit different in terms of where things are put and how they're done, so that we can have more effective use of the larger space, specifically if we get more kids out for the wrestling team like we're anticipating for next year. With a large number of kids possibly coming up from the middle school.
Well, that's it for me for questions.
Thank you.
Bill, how many girls do we have right now that
6.
would classify as a weight class, I guess, individual weight classes?
We have 6 girls. I don't know if they're all individual, if there are any of them.
Six girls at different weights?
I think they're all in their own weight class. We have 6 individual weight classes.
Good, it's what, 13 kids left?
We have 6, but there's 13 in our girls' weight class.
13. All right, it's a start.
It is. I think it's a positive start, and hope, I mean, if we had this when Brianna Conaway was here, imagine?
I can
Yeah, that would have been pretty neat.
totally picture that.
Yeah. That would have been something else.
I just have one question also about the space you're talking about. Obviously, it's being used for multiple things. So how much time is lost in switching things around for different things to be done in that room?
Considerable. I mean, that was one of the things that I actually talked with Croc about.
That's why I'm asking, because really, should you be looking for a different space rather than taking an hour out of the practice time or whatever it may be to actually set everything up and then tear it all down at the end?
Right. And ultimately, yes, in a perfect world, we would. I think, like right now, we're limited to the spaces that we have available to us. And I think using them to the best of our ability is the best way we can do it. And ultimately, it's just going to take a little bit of creative scheduling on my part, plus the coaches agreeing
That's
to
bigger than the actual mat room then, practice.
adjust what the norm is. We can't always go by what the norm is. There was a big culture shock coming back when things were changed different than what it was last year before. So I think that's part of the thing, where everybody has that understanding. I think maybe
Oh, that's it.
different, but will still be equitable. I think that's what we have to do. And
This is
hopefully we can
partition.
accomplish that.
And that's a wall for fitness center back.
I I have one more question.
I don't
Are
have my grandson.
are there
wrestled
elementary
there, too.
schools
I
or
don't
middle
know.
school sports coming to the high school to do anything like?
There are elementary school wrestling. They come to do tournaments. They rent the building.
Oh, just to rent to do,
Yeah.
I meant after school.
No.
Okay. Are they using, they're using their gym though?
Yeah.
Okay,
Middle
so
school
we,
uses their gym, yep.
okay, because we
We
used to be
actually-
able to use the middle school when we did indoor soccer.
Yeah, and we could potentially still do that. Again, it depends on what time of the day it is and when. One of the things that we try not to do in terms of scheduling is like change, like I could probably move wrestling down to the middle school gym and back up to high school gym, middle school gym, but that would be potentially, scheduling conflicts. And then ultimately too, moving equipment and not having the same schedule. I think that's one of the things that, one of my suggestions doesn't really work sometimes, is like having one practice during the week being at 5 o'clock instead of being at 5 o'clock all week. It's a little different if you do that instead of switching back and forth.
No, I agree. All right. No, good luck.
Thank you.
But just one last thing.
Yep.
At the end of the year, could you give the board or give somebody, Dr. Ulmer, an update of how many girls actually stayed out to the end?
Well, so far we've had 6 start and they're all 6.
And we'll stay with 6.
Yep.
Hopefully more.
We had 8. Oh, then I'm lying to you. We had 8. So.
Put a challenge out to them, make sure they stay out.
They should have.
Yeah, but isn't there return wrestlers? Aren't there return girls? I thought so.
We have 2 that are returning wrestlers. One wrestled in elementary, and she wrestled last year for the boys.
I wouldn't have known that. Is there any other questions?
Actually, I have a question for you. I just want to make sure I'm totally clear on what I heard you say concerning at least the finish of this season. So if we create a separate girls' team, they will then most likely be wrestling other girls? Or do they still have that choice to wrestle?
No, once we create the girls' team and they're on the girls' team, they're on the girls' team for the year.
Even in the middle of the season?
Yep.
That's what I wanted to be clear on. Okay,
Yep,
so
and
then,
and I think they all want to be on the girls',
I'm assuming from what they've said at the last meeting, yes.
So I think, I don't think that would be an issue. And then moving forward, we have a girls' team established, we have a boys' team established. The girls will be on the girls' team, the boys will be on the boys' team.
So starting then in next year for 24-25, if there were 2 separate, a girls' team and a guys' team, in your opinion, do you feel that there needs to be 2 separate coaches? I know for swimming, the guys and the girls are together and it's sufficient for a coach, but there's no other sports programs that we have where there's 2 separate teams that don't have 2 separate coaches. So I was just curious.
We did until this last year with track.
Cross-country, I'd
Cross-country
forgotten,
does
Mr.
that.
Fox was probably very overwhelmed with all those students.
Yeah, and ultimately, it really depends on the numbers, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I think if we get, like when I was here, I think we had, 25 wrestlers in the boys' team, and then we end up getting 14, 15 on the girls' team, then ultimately, no, there needs to be a separate coach. I think, anyways, I think it's.
So it's going to come down to
Yeah.
numbers in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes, and ultimately, too, it'll come down to on what the schedule looks like as well. I'll have a better idea next year. I still think that we can travel together and do everything together at this point. Some of the schools now are kind of shifting. Williamsport was the one that shifted away from that, correct? So Williamsport shifted away from that, so they want to do something separate. They actually reached out to me today, whether to ask if we were approved tonight. I said, or approved yet, and I said, not yet, hopefully tonight. So that's where we're at with that. But at this point, I think it would be numbers and basically how the league structured it. The league didn't really do a league schedule this year. I think they probably will next year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I just have one last one, just to follow up on Mrs. Stemler's statement there about if we establish a girls' team this year, next year, have the girls' team. If we have an exceptional girl,
I think they should.
can she go to the boys' team, or she has to stay on the girls' team?
Technically, they can. Ultimately, that's not my decision. That is a board decision. That's a school policy. We have not done it in any other sport. So we don't do it in basketball, we don't do it in soccer, we don't do it in tennis.
But you could in wrestling next year, if
Well,
the
you can
girl's
do that.
exceptional and she wants to wrestle on the boys'
You can-
team and fill in the spot, she can. She doesn't
I
have to
don't-
stay down.
I don't think she should, but that would be a policy that you would have to set.
A policy or is it
Yeah.
PIAA?
No, it's a policy that the board has, that's a local decision.
So we'd have to make that policy then,
That
if that's the way we want to go.
There's only boys on boys' teams and only girls on girls' teams. Like in the past, wrestling was, for lack of a better word, unisex. It was that we didn't have a boys' wrestling team, it was just wrestling. So now we'll have a boys' wrestling team and we'll have a girls' wrestling team. And ultimately, the PIAA doesn't recognize boys going on to girls' teams without ultimately making it a boys' team. So if a boy wanted to go on to a girls' team, that would make that girls' team a boys' team. They did that for volleyball because of those girls getting hurt.
Croc, did you have something to add?
Only thing I was gonna say, the PIAA, at the beginning of the season, you have to declare whether they want to wrestle boys or girls. At the beginning of the season, when they do their hydration and all that stuff, they declare where the girls, on PIAA, as far as I knew, the PIAA says girls can wrestle for the boys, but they have to declare, once they do it, they can't switch.
Right.
They're boys all year, even postseason.
Only if you have a girls' team.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Yes,
this year.
only if you have a girls' team.
Right.
Once you declare, that's it.
Right.
Well, yeah, once you declare, they can declare the girls, they run off boys, they go all year postseason as well. If they declare boys, then they're boys all through the whole season. That was my understanding, but I could be wrong.
So we're fine with all these girls being on a girls' team. There's not an issue with them being on a girls' program.
Thank you.
And if the school district, I think I said this the last time I was here too, if the school district wants to make a policy, because the PIAA won't. They got sued once, I guess, and they just won't touch that. The only thing that they did in terms of gender was, like I said, if a boy participates on a girls' team, then that makes that girls' team a boys' team. So,
Can that be a directive from the superintendent?
probably, yeah, it's a local thing. If you want to make that directive, then that's fine as well.
I'm looking at our solicitor. He said yes.
So ultimately, like, I can't make that rule and say you can't, well, I guess I could, but I'd probably be overstepping my bounds. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I think it's a local decision.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mincer. All right. We're going to tackle B through I first. All those in favor of B through I, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say aye. Motion passes. Letter A. Mr. Enders, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mrs. Calhoun,
Yes.
Mrs. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Furman,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Congratulations, girls.
Yes, congratulations.
All right. There is nothing under old business. Moving on to courtesy of the floor. Anyone that wishes to come to the podium, you will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, Board. I wasn't going to get up here and say anything, but I am totally opposed to boys and girls wrestling each other. You know, where's the femininity and the masculinity in this country going? Seems like they're trying to change one to the other. You know, it's crazy. So since that's a very hands-on type of sport, I say absolutely no. You don't have males and females wrestling with each other. Thank you. Common sense.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
Good evening, Board. Merle Schweitzer, Southeastburg. I have a question on the committee. I don't see the building, and the capital project committee is not listed as one of the committees. I wonder what happened there.
You'll notice, Mr. Schweitzer, that there's a Buildings and Grounds Committee. I asked that it be,
That's new, yeah.
I asked that it be title changed because I thought they were better served by looking at all buildings and grounds and not just capital projects, which I felt is what they were doing.
So that building and ground, that's a new committee also,
That is the change of title.
just to change the title, but it still carries up the function of the capital project committee previously, or? You're eliminating the capital project committee, period, right? Creating a building and ground committee in lieu of. What's the capital campaign? Well, that's the capital campaign committee, what's that?
That has been in place for a year, 2 years. We have had a capital campaign committee functioning that is looking at raising funds for district projects.
On the comprehensive plan, I think you have 3 board members. I think in the past, we've actually had 4 board members on that comprehensive plan committee, where that's an important committee because it reviews all the curriculum. I just wondered why we dropped from 4 to 3.
It's been 3 ever since I've been
I
here.
might not have that right. I was on that committee when we had 4 board members. I was thinking about the forming of another committee called the Fiscal Committee to take a hard look at our fiscal situation. Because I understand like 70% of our budget is going to wages and benefits. And I estimate that's about $9 million too much. And that financial committee, fiscal committee, would work closely with the development of the budget and monitoring the budget throughout the budget year. And that's just a suggestion on my part. That also could look at the building and grounds spending and how we were at one point where I figured we were like at 32 million in 2017. Mr. Enders came up with a plan to pay that off at 2.5 million, and we've been doing that. And that debt, the buildings and grounds debt, will be paid off by 2030. So maybe we need to develop a similar plan as far as wages and benefits.
Mr. Schweitzer, your 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to address the board? Okay, we'll close courtesy of the floor. We are going to have a brief executive session after this meeting for legal and personnel, where there will be no more business being conducted. Meeting is adjourned.